While Sunday night's game against the Cardinals isn't a must-win, all the Eagles have to do is beat the Redskins and Giants the last 2 weeks to win the NFC East. But that doesn't mean Sunday night's showdown against Arizona isn't important. Not by any means. Mike Owens is here. I'm Adrian Fedq. We're here to talk about this game. And the first question I got to ask you, Mike, tell the viewers, tell everybody in Eagles Nation why this game is important.
Well, this game is important for the Eagles because, if they can win this game, it would prove to the rest of the NFL that maybe the Eagles are back. And with a win, you know, against the Cardinals, in addition to a win against the Patriots, that would really show everyone that the Eagles are back on track and, ready to make a run for this division crown. But as far as the playoffs go and how this would work for the Eagles in the NFC East, it would really be a big stepping stone for them, because if they could get this victory, and then you would hope that the Redskins lose to the Bills, the Giants lose to the Panthers, and then if that happens, all of a sudden the Eagles have the possibility of winning this division the following week when they play the Redskins. And if they would beat the Redskins on Saturday night, then they could hope for the Giants to lose in Minnesota. And if that would all happen, the Eagles would end up winning the NFC East. So the key to this whole thing is trying to win the NFC East as soon as possible, because we don't want to be waiting until the final seconds of that Giants game.
No. We don't want to wait till week 17. If possible, we want to wrap this up by next Saturday night, basically. Well, we would have to wait for the Giants to lose. But, I want to get this wrapped up. And, well, you look at what's happened the last couple of weeks, this is a prove-it statement game. It really is. The Cardinals 11-2, one of the best teams in the NFC. A couple weeks ago, you went to Foxborough, you beat the Patriots, but you also had the beneficiary of 3 turnovers or 3 return touchdowns. Last week, you sneak past the Bills. Well, this would just be another one to put on the resume, another one to kind of prove the doubters wrong, because you go from 4-7 and now you possibly could get to 7-7. But these last 3 weeks, basically what it would prove is the first 11 weeks would basically mean nothing. It's a new season, basically. You could wipe away the 4-7 start.
Yeah, you really could. And, that's really what we're looking to do here. We're looking to just improve week by week. And it seems like, that's what the team is doing. And it's crazy to think, because we were just sitting here a few weeks ago after the loss to the Lions on Thanksgiving, possibly thinking that this season was over. We really didn't think that a division crown would be within reach the way the team was playing. But, we said before that, the stretch of losses to the Dolphins, the Bucs, and the Lions, me and you especially, we still had hope in this team because of the defense and the way the defense was playing early in the season. The key for the Eagles right now is the defense again. The defense has kind of regained its form, and that's really carrying this team right now.
Yeah, it really is. And the reason why this is like a big statement game, you look at some of the teams in recent years, the last 10 years, the madness and the craziness that's happened in the playoffs. You've seen 9-7 teams win the Super Bowl, like the Giants. You've seen the 9-7 Cardinals get hot and get to the Super Bowl. Well, you beat the Cardinals. All of a sudden, this tells me that this team can be a legitimate threat in the playoffs. And you look at the potential of who you could be playing on that first weekend of the postseason. If you win the NFC East, you're most likely going to play Seattle. So if you can beat Arizona, that would at least tell me that you would have a chance to beat Seattle at home in the wild card round. That's what winning Sunday would tell me.
Yeah. Let's try not to get too far ahead of ourselves, because if we
definitely not with this team.
No, because if we start thinking about, if we win the division, we might have to play Seattle. Well, I don't think that's going to end too well for us. So let's think positive thoughts here. Let's just focus on getting that division crown.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. All right. First thing I wanted to talk about on this show today, uh, I wanted to talk about Sam Bradford, and I wanted to talk about Carson Palmer because, there's a lot of similarities here between these two guys, in terms of a lot of different things. Palmer's a guy who's basically had a renaissance in his career under Bruce Arians, and it took a lot of time with him. This is his third year now in the system, and you're really seeing Palmer flourish. And you saw signs of it last year too. But if you look at Palmer's first year in the system under Bruce Arians, the numbers look, eerily similar to what Bradford's doing this year. So 2013, Palmer threw 24 touchdowns, 22 interceptions, had a quarterback rating of 83.9. Bradford this year, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, quarterback rating of 82.9. And what we're seeing from Bradford this year is just a steady improvement each week, getting better and better, getting more acclimated to the system. Chip's playing more and more to his strengths. So we're seeing a steady improvement, and it seems like each week we're saying, well, that was Bradford's best game as an Eagle.
Yeah, you're right. And, you can just hope that Bradford can improve on this. And you were talking about Carson Palmer and how, a few years in this Cardinal system, he's starting to get used to it and he's playing very well. And this season, Carson Palmer is actually having the best year of his whole entire NFL career. I mean, the numbers aren't lying right now. Carson Palmer has, let's see, he's got 31 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. He's thrown for 4,003 yards, and he's got a quarterback rating of 107.2. Now, yeah, he's got the receivers to throw the ball to, but those are some outstanding numbers for a guy that's 35 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he's like ancient now, and he's doing extraordinarily well. And he's a perfect fit for what Bruce Arians likes to do offensively. Arians the guy that really likes to stretch the field, go vertical, and Palmer's got a big arm. When he has time in the pocket, he can throw some bombs. So he's a perfect quarterback for that system. And when you think about the ceiling of what Bradford can be, I've always compared him to Palmer and what he can be. Because Palmer right now, he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. At least what he's proved the last 2 years. So I don't know if Bradford can ever put up like a 31-9 kind of ratio, but I think Bradford can eventually get into the fringe kind of top, maybe not get into the top 10, but be between that 10 to 15 kind of range. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with Bradford, and I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I would the whole thing with the Bradford trade, and why people really weren't fans of it is because the Eagles obviously had to give away a second round pick next year, and that's where people don't like it. But I think why they made the trade is for the reason that the way Bradford is playing right now. I think with Foles, Foles kind of reached his ceiling here in Philadelphia when he had that exceptional year of 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That was his ceiling. And, well, at Foles' ceiling, it wasn't going to put him over the top and making a Super Bowl run. But with Bradford, you're starting to see less interceptions, and that's really the key with Bradford. Is he's a guy throughout his career hasn't really thrown that many interceptions. He's known for being accurate, and we're starting to see that now over the past few games. He's starting to turn into more of a game manager per se, So that's what the Eagles right now. If the defense can continue to play like they are, they only need Bradford to throw 1 or 2 touchdowns a game and keep that 0 interception.
Yeah, and there was a number I saw from last week's game that really kind of caught my eye. So Bradford against the all-out blitz last week. Obviously, we know that Rex Ryan loves to bring the heat. Bradford was 6 of 9 for 69 yards against that blitz, and 2 of the incompletions were dropped. So he's doing very well against the heat, against the pressure this season. According to Pro Football Focus, he's actually the second highest ranked quarterback against the blitz, which is a little shocking to me because before the season started, that's what I was really concerned about was Bradford standing in the pocket, taking big hits, facing the heat in the pocket, and standing there and delivering strikes. And I was a little shocked by those numbers. Yeah, I mean, you see, you got a guy with multiple ACL surgeries, and he's hanging in the pocket pretty tough. He's taken some big hits this year, and those numbers are pretty impressive. And considering that Arizona is another team that really likes to bring the blitz, bring the heat from multiple different position, multiple angles, multiple bring multiple players in there. Safety blitzes. Yeah, they like to disguise a lot of things. So it's a lot of similarities between the Jets and the Cardinals.
Yeah. Well, this is a game on the schedule where I feel like if this game was earlier in the season, I would say that we've got no shot in this game. With the way that Bradford was playing, and Bradford's, he was throwing interceptions because he was trying to force passes. His pocket presence wasn't that great. But, now we're later on in the season. Bradford is progressing, so the way he's handling those blitzes, like you talked about, that's key going into this game for Arizona team. That's really gonna, bring the heat on Bradford. So with the game, being later in the season, being at home for the Eagles, I still don't think it's a good game for the Eagles. I think they're going to lose still, but I think that they've got a better shot than they would earlier on in the season.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. And the other topic I wanted to discuss really quickly before we move on to other things about different players or whatever. I wanted to talk about possible extensions. This is the fun thing about having a show because this isn't something you're going to talk about in the locker room. Well, because they're not going to be talking extension until the off season. But we're going to talk extension right now. So 18 quarterbacks in this league are averaging more than $15 million this season. So that is the market for a starting quarterback. They get overpaid, and that number just shows that even average quarterbacks in this league get over $15 million. So Bradford is going to be a free agent in the offseason. He makes $13 million this season, but he's going to get paid, and it's a little bit of a scary thing thinking about it, but yeah, he's going to get an extension. What are you thinking, Mike, in terms of that extension? What kind of money is he looking at?
Yeah, well, of course, Bradford is and his agent are good. They're going to do the best to get the most money, and that's what every player does. They're going to try to get the most that they can, and starting quarterbacks in this league, they get paid a lot of money. You just said with that stat. So, I mean, people are going to have to expect that the Eagles keep Bradford. I mean, he's going to be within that 15, probably the $20 million a year range. And it's just one of those things. I think a few weeks ago when the Eagles were, they were really struggling, and maybe earlier this season when Bradford was throwing interceptions, some people, they didn't want Bradford back at all. But I think with the way that Bradford has progressed now, I think that with the quarterback market that's going to be out there, with a bad quarterback draft class, I mean, I think it's really a no-brainer. I think the Eagles have to keep Bradford at this point for next year.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see what guys like Tyrod Taylor, Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's been reported that the Jets and the Bills, they want to keep these guys. So it'll be interesting to see how much money those guys get, because I would think that Bradford's better than both those guys. Maybe he's just as good as Taylor, depending on what your perception of Taylor is or whatever. But in my opinion, I think he's better than both those guys. But so if Taylor and Fitzpatrick are getting some crazy money, then Bradford's going to get it too. So I mean, if Taylor gets like $18 million a year or something, it might get into that 20 million range, and that's a little scary because of the injury history and all that. So maybe they can do some like incentive based deal, kind of like what Nick Foles got in St. Louis, like a kind of prove it to me kind of deal. So if he does well, then he can earn his money. That's what I would hope, because I don't want to like give out all this money to Bradford and him get hurt or something, and the injuries pop up again. That's what scares me about that. But you got to take chances in this league if you want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and you're right. And the thing with Bradford is, some people don't like him because he's not a guy that's going to go out there and light up the world. That's just not who he is as a quarterback. But I really think, we've stretched this over the past few weeks. He's actually played very good football. And, yes, the Eagles got 3 non-offensive touchdowns against the Patriots. But that's a game where Sam Bradford had a better quarterback rating than Tom Brady. And that was in New England. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. And even last week, you see Bradford step up in the clutch when the Eagles really need him. So, I think Bradford's not a flashy guy. He's not going to do anything that like gets everyone, pumped up and everything. He's not an Aaron Rodgers, but I think at this point, the way he's playing, he's very capable of winning games for this team.
Yeah, and the throw that really got me excited last week was the touchdown to Aguilar. And it wasn't the throw, really. It was more the stepping up in the pocket and the pocket presence there. I mean, I love that. So stepping up in it, looking comfortable, delivering a strike. He's really coming full circle, guys. The haters, I think, are being blinded. That there are still Bradford haters out there. Uh, they're still going by what they saw the first 4 weeks, and they like almost refuse to acknowledge that he is improving. And it's kind of crazy, Like I hate dealing with these people on Twitter, but I got to deal with them, I guess.
Yeah, it's because a lot of people like to look at the numbers, and sometimes the numbers don't tell everything. Actually, a lot of times the numbers don't tell the whole story. So, yeah, with Bradford, you really just have to watch and see how he's playing. And like you said, Aguilar touchdown last week was a great example. And how Bradford is, moving in the pocket, using his feet, and just delivering a great deep ball there. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. But all that the contract stuff will be for after the season. But right now, we just got to focus on the next 3 games, which are huge for Bradford.
Yeah, and to summarize it in like a sentence, Bradford may never be a top 10 quarterback, but that doesn't mean that's not good enough. So guys in this league have won Super Bowls not being in the top 10. So I don't think Eli Manning is a top 10 quarterback. I don't think Joe Flacco is a top 10 quarterback, and they won Super Bowls. So I think if you have like a guy that's like top 15, and as long as you have a good defense, that's good enough to win a Super Bowl in this league. So, not that their Eagles are going to win one, but, I think Bradford is good enough. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the coaching situation. That is Bruce Arians, Chip Kelly. Out of all the guys that the Eagles brought in to replace Andy Reid a couple years ago, the only coach I would consider better than Chip Kelly is Bruce Arians. 32-13 already in his career with Arizona, and Chip Kelly is 26-19. So, yeah, let's talk about those two. What are your thoughts on Bruce Arians, Mike?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love Bruce Arians, so this is one of those situations where we mentioned it last week, where Bruce Arians is probably a guy that we would rather have over Chip Kelly, and it got to a point where when the Eagles had that, they were making a decision on their next coach, and Bruce Arians was one of the guys that they were interested at first. They had an interview with him actually, but then the Eagles and 2 other teams actually canceled their interviews with Bruce Arians at one point. Then the Eagles they love what they saw with Chip Kelly, and then that's how it all unfolded. Chip Kelly goes to the Eagles, and then the Eagles decide not to go with Arians. But you know, your boy Bruce Arians, he's got his Temple roots there, so it, and you know, you can go into this further, but it's kind of interesting because you know Chip Kelly really just stepped right into the head coaching job here in the NFL, and Bruce Arians was actually an assistant coach for quite a long time before he became a head coach.
Yeah, Bruce Arians is not very fond of the chipster, and it's because of that very reason. I mean, you look at all the different stops that Bruce Arians has had. He started his coaching career all the way back at Virginia Tech in 1975. So it's been a long time. And he's held a lot of different positions. So let's see. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 14. All right. So he's had 14 different jobs across the years in college, in the pros. And he never became a full time head coach in the NFL until 2013. So of course he had that little interim, transition there as the Colts head coach when Chuck Pagano had cancer, and that was his first, real taste of being a head coach, and that was his his prove it to me that you can do it, and he did it, and he was extraordinary, and led the Colts to the playoffs, and then he got that head coaching job with the Cardinals finally. So he's 63 years old. I mean, he's the epitome of a journeyman kind of guy that's done everything besides be head coach in this league, and he's finally getting his chance, and that's why he hates Chip, because he doesn't think Chip has earned being that head coach kind of thing. So
Yeah, and you're exactly right. That's why he's not a big fan of Chip Kelly and Chip Kelly's offense. So it should be a great battle with those two great two minds going head to head on Sunday Night Football. But we'll see with that. Bruce Arians and the Colts. I mean, the Cardinals. What they like to do is they're really a big fan of the X plays. They like to get their receivers down the field, make some big catches, and well, they've got the talent to do it. And the Eagles really more focused on getting the running game going, and they kind of build everything off of that. It's a lot of short passes, which you're seeing a lot this year because Eagles don't have the talent at wide receiver. But yeah, the Cardinals, man, they put up points fast because they have so many options there at wide receiver.
yeah, they really do. And you kind of got into a little bit there. It's a new school versus old school kind of thing. The old school kind of vertical offensive areas against the new school kind of up tempo sort of thing with the Eagles. So you got the contrast in styles. Bruce doesn't like Chip, so it's an interesting dynamic heading into Sunday. And let's move on to a different topic now. I don't think we really have to get into that further. So let's see. Let's talk about Fletcher Cox, because we need to give this guy some love. I mean, this what he's doing is just extraordinary. Richie Incognito has had a really, really good season. I mean, he's been outstanding, and like among the best guards in the NFL. And Fletcher Cox just took him to school. I mean, basically, he made mincemeat of him. And Cox is going to have another matchup against one of the top guards in the NFL this week, and that's Mike Iupati. Iupati got signed in the offseason, one of the more coveted guards in the offseason, got brought in, and I'm really looking forward to watching this. There's always what people always want to see. They don't want to see offense and quarterbacks and all that, but I can't wait to see this matchup.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to be a hell of a matchup. But last week people were talking about especially the Bills. They were very high on Incognito. He was really bouncing back, possibly talking about him maybe winning comeback player of the year. And, now Fletcher Cox came into that game against the Bills, just absolutely dominated incognito. And, Fletcher Cox has just been dominating everyone that's lined up against him this season. And the reason that the Eagles have 6 wins this season, most of those wins can be attributed to Fletcher Cox because he is the one guy that the Eagles could not afford to lose. If he ever went down, the Eagles would be screwed.
Dude, that's like not an understatement at all. I mean, he's a game plan wrecker. At some points during the Patriots game, he was being triple teamed. That is extraordinary, and you have no idea how much that opens up things for everybody else. So, he's been complimented now in back-to-back weeks by Bill Belichick and Rex Ryan. I forget exactly what the quote was, but it was a good quote from Rex last week. He basically said how, there were comparisons of Cox to Jerome Brown, and he kind of laughed about it. And, basically he's not laughing anymore because Cox is really one of the premier elite defensive, players in this league. And people outside of Philadelphia don't really know this because they think of the Eagles as this offensive team because that's what Chip Kelly is. He's an offensive mind. And, Fletcher Cox is unbelievable. One of the top players in this league. And this is where I wanted to get to this point because I would not wait to sign Fletcher Cox to an extension. I would lock him up this summer, and I think the earlier you lock him up, the less money you have to give him. So, because he's just going to get better and he's going to get more money. So, I think he's going to get paid a lot. And I don't know how much money he's going to get per se, but it's going to be a lot. And, if I did have to sign him, I would sign Fletcher Cox to a 69-year extension.
There you go. Yeah, lock them up as long as possible. But there's other guys on the team. Like we're talking about, like how much money you would give Bradford and stuff. And the Cox is a one guy on the team where I think whatever they gave him, people would be fine with it. They could give this guy $100 million and people would be fine with it because that's how good he is. And this season, even last season, like he started to get recognized somewhat by the national media, but now I think it's really starting to pick up this season. And it's funny because you're right because guys like Rex Ryan, he probably knew that Fletcher Cox was good watching the film, but Fletcher Cox is a guy you don't realize how much he disrupts an offensive line until you actually see it in person. And when you watch it in person, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, not only does he get like push with the bull rush kind of thing, he also has the quickness and nimbleness to, just get right past you. So he can do a lot of different things to get into the backfield. He just disrupts the entire offensive line. You can line him up anywhere. He already has a career high in sacks this year. Yeah, he's an elite defensive player in this league, and people don't know it.
Yeah, we don't want to tell them. They're gonna have to find out themselves. But yeah, this is a guy that we better not dance around on this one and wait it out. You know what happened when we waited out the Macklin situation. So when Fletcher Cox's contract is up, yeah, this is a situation where the Eagles can't wait it out. Whatever Fletcher Cox wants, you give him.
Yeah, let's just get it done. Just get it done. All right, so here's what I want to talk about now because this is going to be a real test for our secondary going up against these receivers in Arizona. And I love Eric Rowe. I love what I've seen the last few weeks, but this is really going to be a test for him. Because he's gone up against the Patriots last week against the Bills. Although he was lined up against Sammy Watkins on some occasions, Rowe really hasn't been fully tested yet. So I'm curious to see how Rowe handles these guys this Sunday.
Yeah, well, the other main thing with the Eagles secondary right now is that Byron Maxwell, he actually suffered an ankle injury. Well, Rowe is too. Rowe's actually dealing with an ankle injury too. But Maxwell, it seems like his ankle injury might be a little worse. He suffered it against the Bills early on, like the first quarter, on Watkins' long touchdown reception. So Maxwell actually didn't practice yesterday. It looks like he practiced today. So he said he's going to play Sunday, but he is banged up. And the reason I bring this up is because Eagles secondary is thin to begin with, especially the cornerback position. So, I mean, if any one of our cornerbacks go out, if Rowe or Maxwell go down, I mean, geez, you're talking about E.J. Biggers coming in, or you're talking about Denzel Rice playing. And, this isn't that type of game where you can afford that to happen. And, well, that's because you're talking about three receivers that can just put up the numbers. And you're talking to Larry Fitzgerald, the guy's still getting it done. I mean, this season he's got over 1,000 receiving yards. Then you got John Brown. He's got 895 receiving yards. Then Michael Floyd, he's got 652 receiving yards. So, I mean, these Cardinals receivers, man, they can put up the numbers and they score touchdowns.
Now, do you have the numbers of what Larry Fitzgerald has done against us?
Oh, against us? No, I don't have that.
Well, he's always killed us, and unfortunately, I didn't do the research before the show, but I mean, I think all you guys in Philadelphia who are the diehard Eagles fans, you know how much Larry Fitzgerald kills us. Every game, he's killing us. So he always goes over 100 yards against us. I mean, he's an Eagles killer. Sorry, guys, I didn't do the research before the show. My bad. But yeah, you guys know he kills us every game. And let me remind you, Eagles fans, John Brown was drafted 5 spots after Josh Huff. Ew.
That's just sad news because just the fact that we could have Brown on this team. I mean, instead of Huff, well, that sounds pretty good considering the way that Huff is playing. I mean, Huff makes a nice play last week, and then he almost messes it up by trying to throw the ball backwards for some reason. Luckily, his foot was out of bounds, but I mean, you never know what's going to happen with Huff. He just continues to make stupid plays. But yeah, that's just sad looking back and thinking about that, and even some of the other wide receivers that were taken after Josh Huff.
Yeah, I mean, if there is one thing about Chip Kelly, he has not been able to draft receivers. So, I mean, Aguilar's not looking good this year either. So, and even Jordan Matthews to an extent, he hasn't been as good as a lot of these other guys that have been drafted either. So, I mean, Jordan's still got time to develop, but yeah, my little chip knock, not drafting receivers, but I wanted to talk about John Brown a little bit more because I am a little bit concerned about him because of his quickness and his short area quickness and his burst that he has. A little bit like Cole Beasley a little bit. And Malcolm Jenkins had some problems with him. So I'm a little bit concerned of this matchup in the slot with John Brown. I got a bad feeling about it. I think Brown's going to have a big game.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on this one, unfortunately. I think that Brown is just going to burn us. I mean, this guy can freaking fly. So we're in trouble there. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's going to light it up. Jenkins has been great this season, playing the slot when necessary, but I don't think this is a good matchup for him. And against the Cowboys, Billy Davis later on in the game, he went to E.J. Biggers because of the matchup problem against Cole Beasley. So we might be seeing this again, and that kind of scares me. I don't ever want to see E.J. Biggers on the field. Yeah, no, it's not promising. E.J. Biggers, it's not going to be good.
Yeah. All right. Let's go more into Nelson Aguilar. According to Pro Football Focus, Aguilar is rated as the worst receiver in the league, and last week was just the second time that he was targeted more than 5 times in a game. So, what are your thoughts on Aguilar right now?
Yeah, well, it's kind of frustrating with Aguilar because he's a guy that when we drafted him, first round, we really kind of had some high expectations for him this season, and really hasn't lived up to it at all. It's kind of been a bit of a disappointment this season, and he's had some drops. He had some key drops that last week against the Bills. He has shown flashes of doing some good things, like his touchdown catch against the Bills. He also had a nice one-handed grab earlier this year against the Redskins in Washington. So shown flashes. But the thing with Aguilar is I think that getting injured this year and missing some time just didn't help him at all. If you're a rookie and you get injured, you miss any amount of time, it's not good, for your production on the field. So I think, that's the key there. But what I really would like to see the Eagles, do is try to get Aguilar the ball more. I think they have to target him more. I mean, even if this guy continues to drop the ball a little bit. I mean, you saw Jordan Matthews earlier this year. He had a case of the drops, and he fixed it. It's something that can be fixed. So I think they got to just feed the guy the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have seen him get open on tape sometimes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he's disappointed me this year. I thought he'd be better. I thought he'd be more developed than he is. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing improvements, like slight improvements. But I wish he was a little bit more further along. Now, I think another reason for the disappointment too, for a lot of people, I think there's been a problem with what we saw last year with the rookie wide receiver class and just how many rookie wide receivers excelled. And you normally don't see that. Think about how many guys last year broke out. Odell Beckham. Sammy Watkins was drafted high. I mean, all these different guys. And then this year you're seeing some guys break out too. So like last year, Allen Robinson, for example. So I think that's kind of burdened him a little bit in terms of the expectations because he hasn't been as good as I thought he would be. But I think it just shows that we got to still give him time now. But you got to catch the football first and foremost. I got to get that fixed. But I don't know. I'm not giving up on him, but I am disappointed.
Yeah, well, you hope that him getting his first touchdown catch of his NFL career last week against the Bills, will help him out. Sometimes the first one is always the hardest. Sometimes the first bucket in basketball is the toughest. The first goal, the first touchdown is always the toughest one to get. So hopefully, this is what Aguilar needed, and I think that you're going to see more of Aguilar because what teams are doing now is they're starting to double Jordan Matthews because they know that the Eagles have no other options at wide receiver. So I think that Aguilar is going to be put in the spotlight here.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I want to see him get targeted, like you said. Just kind of feed him the ball a little bit. He had 6 targets last week. Like I said, second time all year he's been targeted more than 5 times. So, yeah, I want to see him get the ball. All right, moving on just real quickly to, our run defense. They got David Johnson in there now running the football. Chris Johnson suffered a season-ending injury. Chris Johnson was, having a really, really good kind of bounce-back year for him. Then he got hurt. But David Johnson is a really good-looking rookie out of northern Iowa, guy that really caught my eye at the Senior Bowl. And he looks like a good running back. Our defense limited Shady McCoy last week. It looks like we have fixed the kinks in the run game, so you would hope that they can shut David Johnson down.
Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, David Johnson is obviously he's a talented running back, but I don't think you're going to see David Johnson that much in this game. I think you're really going to see the Cardinals just throw the football. So you'll see your share of David Johnson, but you're really going to see Carson Palmer air it out.
Yeah, and I think the key is to get a lot of pressure on Carson Palmer. Because when you do kind of pressure him in his face, that's when he can make mistakes. But all year he's had a really clean pocket to work from, and that's a testament to what the Cardinals did in the offseason. Bringing in Yapati, you got Jared Valdir as he's a good tackle, and they really fixed their line woes from last season, and now they have a pretty solid one. So they've been giving Palmer protection all year, and yeah, he's been shredding defenses because of it.
Yeah, well, the key to the Eagles, like you said, it's going to be have to get pressure on Pollard because we saw last week what can happen when you don't get pressure. When the Eagles didn't get pressure on Taylor last week, he really did a good job of, shredding the Eagles apart there in the secondary. So the Eagles are going to have to make sure that they get the Palmer. Now, the good thing about this game is the Eagles have an advantage that Palmer is not a running quarterback. The Eagles don't really fare that well against running quarterbacks, but against a guy that kind of just stands back there in the pocket and is he's not really a threat to run. It'll help the Eagles with them being able to bring different blitzes.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there. All right, I guess we're getting pretty close to prediction time, so we could do that. Yeah, let's do predictions. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, so since we didn't get to talk about the Eagles running game, I'll briefly talk about that before my
Oh yeah, yeah.
prediction.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, I completely whiffed there.
Yeah, no. Well, there's not much to say. I mean, I think that the Eagles need to continue to give Matthews more carries. The less of Murray that we see, the better. So we'll see what happens with the carries in this game. But I I don't want to see Murray on the field when we need to run out the clock or it's a key situation in the game. Like to see, Matthews on the field then. And, you can kind of go on this more, but you kind of mentioned this, how you would like to see Murray on the field when the offense has a rhythm going on.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to say right now isn't anything I haven't said before, but when you have DeMarco Murray out there on the field on first and second down, you're getting behind in the chains, and when you have Ryan Matthews out there, you're playing more ahead of the chains. So instead of like because I'm seeing this. I've been seeing this all year. First down, swing pass to Marco Murray. He gets 1 or 2 yards. Second down, he gets it inside zone. He gets stuffed for like 1 or 2 yards. So then you're getting like a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and our receivers can't convert it. But with Ryan Matthews in there, he's got just a little bit more wiggle and explosion. So um, you're seeing like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 7. So and that's a lot more. That's obviously a lot easier for a team like the Eagles, and you can open up the playbook a little bit more when you have a 3rd and 3 because you could run it or pass it. But when 3rd and 7 comes along, you're asking your receivers to get open, and that's a tough task for them. So those are basically my thoughts on that.
Yeah, there we go. So I think as far as predictions goes, I'll make my prediction here. Unfortunately, I think that this is a tough matchup for the Eagles. I just think the Cardinals just have too many options at wide receiver, and I think that it's just going to be too much for us to handle. And this is a Cardinals team that they're averaging, over 30 points a game, so it's going to be tough for the Eagles to contain that. So I'm going to actually go right on the number. I think the Cardinals are going to get 30 in this game. I'm going to say that the Eagles end up with 20. I'm going to go 30-20 Cardinals. I think that we'll keep it close most of the game, but I think the Cardinals are always going to be 7 or 10 points ahead of us.
That's interesting because I feel kind of good about this game, and I kind of said last week I was more scared of the Bills because I think in some ways we do match up okay with the Cardinals. because the one thing that we've done really well all year is cover the deep ball. And, Byron Maxwell, Eric Rowe, this is going to be on them to really step up in this game. And I think we're going to be okay. I think John Brown's going to shred us. I mean, there's no doubt there. But I think we have a shot in this game. So I'm going to go with 27-23. Eagles win. So I'm going to say it. I think we're going to win this game. And I don't know. I got an okay feeling about this. I picked us to lose last week against the Bills. I was wrong, so I'll probably be wrong again. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think that the key to the game is going to be how Maxwell and Rowe handle, the Cardinals wide receivers. I think that is what it's going to come down to. I mean, Rowe he's played very well up to this point, and this is probably his biggest test yet. He's going to have a stiff challenge, and Maxwell on the other side too. I mean, they paid Maxwell all this money for situations like this, so we're going to see if the Eagles secondary can hold up in a big game like this.
Yeah, and there was something I forgot to talk about earlier in the show that I just thought about just now, because I rewatched the Eagles game again yesterday, and I noticed that Chip is starting to get back to his old ways again, which isn't, I don't know if that's promising or not. In terms of the first half, how he likes to double up on the swing pass and the inside zone. If you guys remember a couple shows ago, I talked about how the Eagles started games and how the first 8 or so games, 50% of the time on their opening drive, they double up on the swing pass / inside zone combination. And during the 3-game losing streak, Chip actually completely went away from that. But now, what I'm seeing last week, he's kind of going back to it. But he's going back to it without Murray. So he's using it with Matthews. So there was the one occasion where Matthews got a swing pass. He got a yard or two. But then on the inside zone, he got 6 yards. I'm curious to see how that kind of plays itself out as the year goes on, if he continues those tendencies. Because if I'm picking up on these tendencies, obviously the Cardinals are going to too, so they're going to know what's coming.
Yeah, well, like you said, the key there is for them to use the running backs like Matthews and Sproles and not use Murray, because it's just not working with Murray.
Yeah, so the viewers out there, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Every time the Eagles start a drive, jot down how many times they go swing pass on first down, second down inside zone. They do it all the time.
Yeah, you're right. So we'll see how it plays out in this one.
All right. So, that point has been made. So it's final thoughts time before we head off. So what do you got to say, Mike?
Yeah, well, as an Eagles fan, whenever I think about the Arizona Cardinals, there's one guy that comes to mind, and that's Jake the Snake Plummer.
Now this is old school.
Oh yeah, old school. Jake the Snake Plummer. He always he killed us. He was an Eagle killer. It would always be games where Jake the Snake would bring the Cardinals back. They would win at the last second. And Jake the Snake made me cry multiple times. I hated that guy. So I always hate the Cardinals because of that damn guy.
Well, when I think of the Cardinals, I think of that 2008 NFC Championship game. Oh, man. And, if you've listened to prior shows, I've been comparing this season to 2008 a lot, because we had that bad stretch where we played like shit. And then in 2008, we beat the Giants, and the Giants were really good that year. And then that Giants game really springboarded the Eagles to success. And then they got hot. They got hot in the playoffs, and we're kind of seeing it again this year. You got that big win in Foxborough against the Patriots. Then you beat the Bills, and Sunday now you're playing the Cardinals. So you're hoping that the hot play continues, and obviously it's late in the season now, so it's great to play your best football now, and you can only hope that they keep playing like this, and because I am looking ahead a little bit, and I am seeing that Seattle Seahawks matchup on the horizon in the wild card round, and by God, if the Eagles can win that game, they can beat anybody. So, I'm not trying to get too excited because I don't think we're beating Seattle. But 2008, this year, a lot of similarities in terms of a lot of different things.
Yeah. So what you're saying is let's start cheering for the Seahawks to lose.
Yes. Yes.
And go Vikings.
Go Vikings. Go. So, yeah, there you go. All right, those are our final thoughts. We are out of here. Hopefully, Jeremy will be on. I guess we'll do a show Monday night. So, yeah, I couldn't make it today. Unfortunately, he works during the day and we don't. So we work at night. Well, yeah, well, whatever. Okay, we're out of here. Later, guys. Go Birds and enjoy the game because it's going to be a good one.
Later.
Later.